Very good evening, students. As a continuation of what it means by technical writing, so we'll start with the different types of technical writing. So before going into the different types, okay, we'll again go back to what it means by technical writing. And okay, technical writing, as we are very much familiar with, it is designed for specific fields or it's designed for specific fields which involves technology such as engineering, chemistry, information technology, software, medical professions, aeronautics, robotics, and so on and so forth. So, on a very basic note, technical writing is used to inform by anticipating and answering audience questions, to instruct the audience to perform a specific task or to follow a procedure, and to persuade the audience via explanations, analysis, and solutions. As we are very familiar with the fact that technical documentation or technical communication is an audience-oriented means of communication that provides the reader with clear and easy access to information, or the audience is more important than the writer himself. Since technical communication is an audience-oriented means of communication, uh, there are certain characteristics which are usually followed in every type of technical documentation. One is it is usually communicating about technical or very specialized topics, such as, for instance, computer applications or medical procedures or environmental procedures. And another thing is, even though it is about communication, communicating by employing means of technology. For instance, it can be used by using web pages, health files, or social media sites. And another very important characteristics of technical writing is it provides instruction on how to do something regardless of how technical the task is, even if the technology is used to create or distribute that communication. Okay. So technical writing, as we are familiar with, it is used to create documents specifically for professional audience, such as research papers, programming guidelines, and repair manuals. And it requires direction and instructions, unlike other forms of writing. So when we say direction, so what makes technical documentation or technical writing different from the other forms of writing is the fact that technical writing is very much objective, right? Or it places the audience above the writer himself. And it ensures that it goes through revision at every phase, right? So they have to be very careful when documenting a particular procedure or documenting a particular user manual. And it supports a number of industries like IT, engineering, software, heavy machinery, aerospace, electronic, healthcare, and education. To make a fact that technical writing plays a very predominant role in almost every sector that has something to do with technology, that has something to do with the machinery. So every company that has something to do with the machinery will definitely have a technical documentation on how to use this particular apparatus or machinery. So there are different types of technical writing documentation. To start with, end user document, medical documentation, traditional documentation, SOS, case studies and white papers, press releases. Um, I'm sorry for repeating the press releases again, right? So these are certain types, but that necessarily doesn't mean that these are the only types of technical writing documentation. So to start with, end user documentation. What is the use of end user documentation, right? So end user documentation are basically documents created to help end users, that is usually the audience or the receiver, on how to use a product, or at times how to set up a product, or at times how to troubleshoot a product. Right? Going on to the definition, end users refers to customers or users of a product, those who those who are setting up a product or using a product on a very regular basis. So this documentation helps customers understand and operate the product by breaking down technological terms to easy to understand content, right? So on a very basic note, it provides essential information on how to use a product, specific product. For example, there is a picture for your reference. Before going into that, it can take many forms. This end user document can take many forms. It can be in the form of text documents, it can be in the form of images, or it can be in the form of videos, or it can be in the form of interactive in-app modules. For example, okay, whatever we see in this particular picture is an interactive in-app module which takes us or which help the customer who is using the product to determine how to use it. So this is all about end user document. So moving on to medical documentation. So this form of writing, okay, it is usually involved in medical research, diagnosis, and treatment. But this particular medical documentation is a broad field. It doesn't necessarily mean medical research, diagnosis, and treatment. So it can involve healthcare document, or it can involve marketing document that is related to any apparatus used in medicine, the field of medicine. It can provide detailed history of illness and treatment, or it can also be a technical guide on how to assemble an instrument that is used in the field of medicine. For example, just for your reference, this is a medical documentation or which involves a detailed history of illness and treatment of a particular patient. To move on, traditional documentation or traditional documentation is a broad term that brings in everything together. Okay, for example, okay, it involves software user manuals, how to do instructions, operation and maintenance manuals, and standard operating procedures. Right. Okay, so this documentation has been in effect for a very long period of time. It is usually in the form of flowcharts or usually in the form of pictorial representation. For example, okay, this particular picture, it shows you how to correct the watch and bring back to its normal mode, normal functioning, right? Okay, as you can see, right, it provides a detailed explanation, or it provides a detailed understanding of how to operate this watch, right? So SOP stands for step-by-step instructions or step-by-step process, right? So what does it mean by step-by-step instruction? Right. Okay. So when it comes to an organization, okay, so this particular SOP or instructions compiled by the organization to help workers who are part of this organization to carry out their routine operations. Or in other words, SOP is a repeatable process or it's a routine task, right? In order to achieve something called as, in order to ensure the reliability and efficiency and achieve high standards of the workspace, or to ensure the high standards of the organization which is involved. And this particular SOP is usually employed to prevent mistakes. Even though it is used to ensure credibility, on a very basic note, it is used to prevent mistakes, right? Okay, to prevent mistakes happening within the same company, right? And usually SOP has five different elements. It usually has a title page, followed by table of contents, followed by the purpose of this SOP, followed by the procedure that is usually involved. It's a detailed procedure. It talks about the detailed procedure that is meant to be happen at different phases. And next comes quality control, right? And towards the end, okay, SOP also has the reference part. Coming to press releases. So press releases are usually formal or factual information issued by an organization to make business related announcements. Or in different words, it's a written statement and is usually released to a media which contains formal as well as factual informations uh, for providing information related to a launch of a product, or providing information on the different progress that is happening within the company, or making a statement. For example, okay, so as you can see in this picture, this particular photograph This particular reference is a press release of MacBook Pro. So going on to the next thing, case studies. So usually case studies and white papers are industry-specific documents that provide real-world examples testifying to the organization's expertise and value, and are used for lead generation purpose. To make it very simple, it involves the analysis of a customer project that used your company's product and services, and it is used commonly in social, educational, and business research. This is annual reports, documents that indicate a company's financial health and yearly performance. And every company or every organization has its own annual report, right? This particular annual report just ensures the progress of the company, right? Okay, is it going on a decline, or is it progressing towards betterment? All these things are learned through the annual reports, right? So with this note, okay, we have come to the end of this session. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.